Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our OpIntel Member Spotlight Series featuring Matt and Jay Kos, outside plant manager of Allband Communications. My name is Ben Anderson, and I'm the Director of Product Development and lead the Genesis team who builds and maintains the operational intelligence platform for our members. Today, Matt and I will be discussing how he and his team are using OpIntel with network monitoring and management to the benefit of their operation and their subscribers. This is the second installment of our OpIntel webinar series, and our first installment featuring Derek Davidson, CTO of People's Communication of Texas. We discussed a variety of different platform functionalities Derek and his team use to improve their operation. If I've piqued your interest with that particular webinar, you can register to view that segment from a link that we'll share in the PDF after this presentation. Before we get started, I'd like to address a few housekeeping items. First, following our discussion, if there's any Q&A or questions for us, please go ahead and put those in the questions section here in the webinar. You can post those questions at any time and we'll address them at the end of our session. The webinar is being recorded and a copy will be available afterward. I'd also like to say a big thank you to our marketing team, Dan Timmer and JB Peterson, for helping organize and promote today's webinar, and the Genesis team for everything that they're doing to build and maintain all the cool OpIntel functionality we'll discuss with you today. So to kind of kick us off, I think we'd like to just gauge the temperature of the room, if you will, and have a quick poll question. So the poll question for today is, what level of stress do you have with your current network engineering and after-hours network support structure? I sleep like a baby, it's like rush hour traffic, holiday with the in-laws, or absolute dumpster fire. So if you can tell, we were having a little bit of fun with this question, putting it together. So far, it looks like we're getting some pretty solid results coming in. Appreciate everybody's voting. Okay, it looks like I think most of the respondents are slowing. We'll give you maybe a few more seconds. But it looks like most people feel like dumpster fire would describe how they feel about their current support structure. So I know a lot of people feel that way. It can be a really stressful part of the operation. You know, holiday with the in-laws, not much better, I'd say. So it sounds like a good section of the people are looking for some areas of improvement, and I hope that what we'll have to share with you today will be beneficial. So before we begin the spotlight today, for those of you that OpIntel is, I guess, kind of a new topic for, I thought that it would be good for us to do just a really quick overview of what OpIntel is. So not quite 3 years ago, Chris Beatson, former NRTC Managed Services CTO and current VP of Engineering and CTO of NRTC Broadband Solutions, identified a gap between the needs of our members and their need to monitor and maintain the networks and tools that they were widely using or that were available to them in the marketplace. Members often complained of the difficulty managing their networks from multiple tabs, the inability to customize monitoring platforms to their specific needs, and an overall lack in the ability to share and correlate information between platforms involved in the day-to-day operations of their business. So Chris formed a small team who, along with a small group of pilot members, developed the OpIntel solution from scratch that met these needs and many others that we identified throughout the development process. You know, in general, your operations contain a large number of different data streams, things like net flow, subscriber files, weather, infrastructure data, social media posts. All of those things, when correlated correctly, can provide you with really unique insights that help you proactively identify issues or identify upsell opportunities, automate tedious tasks, or just in general, improve the overall experience of your subscribers. And so that is really what we strive to do with OpIntel today. So overall, how does OpIntel help? As I mentioned, every operation has a large number of very different data streams. Those data streams are complex. Oftentimes they're vast, with millions or tens of millions of records produced in a 24-hour period of time. And so the problem really becomes, how do we identify those needle in a haystack type events that, when properly identified, could give us insights to proactively identify and resolve issues on the network before they become customer impacting events. We use things like machine learning to proactively identify and then notify members of these types of events, complex or not, that help to reduce the potential for those customer impacting events. And ultimately, again, the output of this is that your operation runs more efficiently. If you have, they operate more efficiently with the need for fewer resources, and ultimately that improves the experience of your broadband subscribers. Now, today we're going to focus our discussion specifically on how the combination of OpIntel plus network monitoring and management can provide a benefit. And so I think it's important for us to run through those as well. So again, every operation is very different. And so every operation may need support in different areas. The major benefits of adding the services from our network engineering and monitoring group are really that it allows you to free up time to focus more on mission critical objectives or other areas of your business. Within this particular solution, not only do you get access to the operational intelligence platform, but our network management and monitoring teams see the same thing that you're seeing. So when we're looking in and we're trying to identify problems or resolve issues, everyone's looking at the same sets of information and making, actionable decisions based on that information. With the management aspect of the solution, you have access to NRTC engineers who basically can help you with the management of the layer 2 and layer 3 network, and that support is available 24/7, 365. As we stub up the deployment with you, we'll work with you to identify what alarms or what types of alarms, as we identify them, are important to you, and then how do we make sure that those alarms get to the right people at the right time. We understand that after hours especially, you may have different escalation procedures than you might want to have put in place during the middle of the day. So we can build those escalation pathways with you based on the type of alert, the time of day, the day of the week, things like that, to really allow you to kind of take a break from the after hours issues and really only get involved in those when they absolutely require your attention. Additionally, on the management side, we have the ability to assist in vendor relations. So things like escalation within vendors for troubleshooting purposes, be able to help provide support or be a liaison between yourself and the various infrastructure vendors that populate your network. And the interface that we have between you and us is really through a very detailed ticketing system and support portal. So a lot of benefits there on top of just the software itself. And I'm excited that we'll be talking a little bit more about those as we get into our discussion with Matt here in a few minutes. About a year ago, August of 2022, we launched OpIntel as generally available. And for us, that means that we emerged from our pilot period and we were able and ready to start providing the service more actively to members. And since then, we've been pretty busy. The solution has gotten an overwhelming interest from our members. And so we've been able to really dive into a lot of cool things. Things like new feature development, we've added to our team. We've improved our processes that ultimately will help us build and support the members that are on OpIntel more quickly and efficiently. So we're constantly looking at not just new ways that we can provide information to you, but also ways that we can do things better and how can we better support you in that effort. Looking back at the previous year, there are a number of things that we've been able to accomplish, but I wanted to share some of the services and functionality that we've added since the initial launch to help kind of give you a sense for some of what we've been working on and how we like to approach, our various member deployments. So again, very relevant to our discussion here today. Earlier this year, we launched the integration of our NOC services, so our network monitoring and management service with OpIntel. that emerged from our pilot program and now is generally available. We have developed support for over 25 manufacturers within OpIntel. That list continues to grow. We have about a dozen that are currently in the development pipeline, with probably another dozen that are waiting after that. So you'll see a lot of growth in terms of the number of devices that we can extract information from. And that's exciting for us because that just continues to open up the possibilities we have for serving members with a very diverse set of infrastructure technologies. We have built out integrations that help members who utilize our call center help the call center technicians interact with your customers better. So not only is our NOC and our network monitoring and management employees using the OpIntel information that you're seeing, we can also provide a distilled set of that information to the call center technicians that they can use to better support your customers as they're calling in needing support. So one of the biggest things we hear is, the infrastructure that I have shows me what's happening right now, but it doesn't tell me what was happening last night when that customer was actually having a problem. So in this case, our call center technicians have more of a time series view. They can see, in fact, yes, I see that you were having problems last night. It looks like it might be good today, but we're going to look at what was causing that problem for you last night. That just helps the customer feel more seen. I think it drives towards more effective issue resolution, and again, overall driving more beneficial customer experience. We have developed more sophisticated mapping. So not just being able to show hosts on a map based on their location, but we can also overlay GeoJSON fiber routes. We can change the colors of subscribers based on their status. So whether they're up or down, whether they're in a degraded state, whether they're having some sort of service impacting issue that is other than hard down, we can display that for you in real time. Additionally, we have weather overlays and other contextual information that just really help provide the context for what might be happening for a subscriber. We have integrations with carrier grade NAT and IPv6. So NAT 4.4, NAT 6.4 are both supported within the platform now. If those are things that you have implemented or are considering, we are absolutely able to assist you in extracting that information and bringing it into your OpIntel space. We have support now for various CMTS platforms. I think we're currently working on our third CMTS platform now. So that was something that we had just started getting into earlier this year and now have quite a bit of functionality for. We've improved the way that we display error rates and the logic behind essentially the utilization of various ports and other error metrics. So not just showing you how much traffic is traversing a port at a specific time, but how does that amount of traffic relate to its overall capacity? Our interfaces getting to capacity, nearing capacity? Are we having to look at expanding our availability in certain areas? These types of graphs and the corresponding alerts really help with that. Another kind of cool thing that we've been working on here is essentially human readable DNS. So for anyone who's ingesting NetFlow today, you definitely know that most of the domain name traffic that comes across isn't necessarily as obvious to what that traffic is. Looking at this view here, you can see we've got DSSOTT. If you didn't know any better, you wouldn't probably know what that is, but that's actually Disney Plus traffic. So what we've done is we've gone in and we've translated the various unique streams of data that come across the network based on their IP addresses, and we put them into more of a human readable fashion. So is it Netflix? Is it YouTube? Is it Disney Plus? And how would we categorize that traffic? The level of categorization here allows us to report back to you more demographic information of the utilization types of your network. So, what percentage of my subscribers are video streamers? What percentage of my subscribers are gamers or work from home? And we can segment those groups for you, which ultimately, generally we're seeing is being used by marketing groups to market to certain individuals or look at opportunities for upsells. So not only is there the network monitoring and management component here, like we'll talk about with Matt, but the platform also helps provide information that can be of assistance on the sales and marketing side. So we are just about ready to start our conversation with Matt, but I wanted to toss out one additional poll question, just to kind of get a sense for how folks are handling after hours network monitoring today. So essentially, are you staffing in-house 24/7? Are you fully outsourced? Are you some hybrid of that? Do you use an on-call rotation with your existing folks? An answering service? Those tend to be the largest combination of answers we've had. Apologies if we're missing something, but absolutely try to pick the one that's closest to your particular environment. Looks like we're getting a nice number of results coming in, so thank you everybody for your participation. I would say we are probably in a good place to close that poll up here. And seeing the results, it looks like the majority of folks are using some sort of an on-call rotation. We see that quite a bit. In terms of how a network monitoring and management addition to OpIntel could fit in with that, by no means do we want to offset any on-call rotation that you might have, but on the monitoring perspective specifically, we act as a filter more or less for the various alerts that on-call person might receive, right? So instead of getting a deluge of alerts, our team can pre-qualify the alerts that are coming through and escalate only when necessary. And the output of that really is that on-call individual only gets awoken when the issues are very critical, rather than 10 or 15 pager alerts that might come through. So great to get an understanding of that. So, I think we're at the part now that you've all been waiting for. And so I would like to introduce Matt and Jacos, outside plant manager of Allband Communications. Allband is located in northeastern Michigan and provides services in 4 counties. I was reading through the history as I was preparing for our webinar today, and I learned that Allband was Michigan's first nonprofit telephone cooperative. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Matt, welcome to the spotlight.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I figure it would probably be good for the folks on with us today to just have you start by giving us a little bit of an overview of yourself, maybe how you got to be here at Allband, some of your experiences in this industry, and maybe a little bit of an overview of the Allband operation.
Yeah, sure. So I've got almost 30 years of experience in the industry now. I came from a corporate environment on the West Coast, did 20 years out there, cut my teeth with the coax over fiber back when the internet was 5 megs down and 1 meg up over a cable modem, and everybody was super excited to have that speed.
Right.
So yeah, I did 20 years with that, and then ended up moving back here to Michigan just for lifestyle changes, and had an opportunity to come back to work. It wasn't a chosen opportunity. It was just circumstances said, "Hey, let's go back to work and get back into this." And Allband was literally right around the corner from where I live, so applied here, and they graciously gave me a job, and I came back in as a field tech, which is what I had started, in my career as, and worked my way up into management. So kind of the same story here, as I came in as a field tech, and then have been worked up through the ranks into the outside plant manager. So I've have had quite a bit experience with the data, video, and telephony parts of the business. And Allband has been, a great company. Like I said, the story that's on our website, the allband.org, has the history of how Allband got started, where it was one guy that just wanted telephone service, but in a very rural area, and that's what our area is up here in Northeast Michigan. It's very spread out, and with a sparse population. And kind of the goal there was to start getting service to those people. You know, you've got a lot of people that move up here, they retire up here, and they needed internet, they needed phone, you know, the link to the outside world, especially during that time, you know, over the last 10, 20 years, as it's been growing and growing, and where now is almost essential on a daily basis that you have some type of, you know, connection to the internet. Almost everybody is on it. We're spread out over a vast majority. It's about a couple hundred square miles, I believe. We are mainly fiber. It's all fiber in the ground. We do have a couple areas that are the Wi-Fi services. One of the towns that we're in is primarily Wi-Fi, and then we have a couple lakes that, you know, they're just spread out so far and not really close enough to our fiber plant to provide fiber to those customers. So we went with a Wi-Fi solution that shoots out across the lakes to service more customers. So it's an interesting experience with having multiple avenues, you know, multiple sources of internet. But yeah, the subscriber base, I mean, you know, we're relatively small. We're a non-for-profit, you know, organization funded primarily by government funds, and we've got about 1,500 customers under our belts right now, and looking to do some major expansions in the next year or so.
Excellent. Yeah, I think a lot of what you're talking about, wireless specifically, and some of the other techniques you're using to deliver services, what resonate with a lot of folks we talk with, you know, with this particular product. So good to hear that perspective. You know, like we kind of said here recently, the integration of OpIntel with network monitoring and management is something that's relatively new. Like a lot of the new products we build, we usually start with a pilot, and you and Allband were a part of that. So can you talk a little bit about what attracted you kind of to the idea of this combination of services, and if you would say that there was a problem that you were trying to solve for or improve? You know, what was that? Kind of what was it that you were hoping to get out of the experience?
Yeah, absolutely. When I came on board, there wasn't a lot of visibility into the network. There was some. We had some higher level network monitoring tools, but nothing really that, you know, would identify the problems, not only in a consolidated view, but in a proactive sort of view. You know, everything was kind of reactive. So when you guys came to us and presented us with this information, you know, I, coming from a, you know, a much larger organization, we would have walls of monitors that showed us everything that was happening in the network, and, you know, at any given time. And seeing that opportunity, you know, even at the smaller scale, is still very important, because we're able to pinpoint, you know, outages much quicker. We're able to see, even down to the customer level, get into that proactive stance of seeing errors coming in before a customer even knows that they have a problem. It was an eye opener, you know, for this organization, because they just weren't used to being able to see things like that. But it is starting to help us, like I said, get more proactive than reactive, and that's our move forward, is to get into that stage.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think as you and I were talking the other day about this, one of the areas that you'd mentioned that seems to be helping fulfill that proactive approach was some of what we were able to help you with on the ONT side of things, specifically related to errors. Would you talk a little bit about that, kind of what it was that you were looking for, and kind of what OpIntel is able to tell you?
Yeah, so we had an issue with one of our pieces of equipment that it was called the rogue ONT, and when that starts happening in a particular part of the in the network, it has the ability, the adverse effect of taking down an entire area all at once. And it'll cause flapping of services across multiple customers. And the hard part about it is not having any tool at that time where we could look at the entire network all at once, or the entire neighborhood, or section of our plant all at once. We'd have to individually go through and look at a customer, and look at another, and look at another one, look at another one, and we'd have to play the the hunt and peck game of trying to isolate that down to a particular customer that was ultimately causing the issue. Well, here with the with the OpIntel tool, it's far easier to find these issues, and again, we can now even start to proactively see them because of the historical information and the graphs over time, and the real-time information playing in there as well. We can see stuff coming before it even happens. Being able to see the light levels, the downstream bit pairs, the upstream bit pairs, was all just such a manual process before, whereas now it's almost a push of a button, and I can see who are the first customers that I need to be looking at, and we can go in and make changes and verify that they are the source of the issue, and then go out and correct it once we've narrowed it down.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can just picture in my head, maybe the before and after there, right? Like the amount of effort, expense to try to identify that user, and then maybe with a little bit more organization of the data, or more or less how it's displayed, you could get right to the heart of the issue and work for it. So that's cool. That's one of the use cases I think that's resonated with our team too, in what we've been able to do to help folks like yourself.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, man.
No, I was just going to add that it was, like I said, it was hunt and peck, and when you're dealing with an intermittent outage, that these things would cause, you wouldn't know sometimes if the changes that you made did actually solve the problem, or you did find the customer. But with the OpIntel, it's you could see it right away. You would know instantly, because the bit pairs would start dropping off and stop incrementing once you've isolated a particular customer. I don't know, I shouldn't say customer, a piece of equipment. Once you isolate it, you start to see the bit pairs just drop off, and so yeah, it just has sped up the process so drastically. It's night and day.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great to hear. A lot of folks, when they start using OpIntel for the first time, they will say that we're able to show information that they didn't know was happening, or they were looking at the network from a different vantage point and maybe thought it was configured or working one way, and in fact the data was able to show that wasn't the case. It was doing something else. Was there anything on your network or your operation that had that kind of effect as you started to use OpIntel?
Absolutely. Like the screen you're showing there, the bit errors and light levels, that was all manual. I mean, you have to go into every single customer one at a time with the tools that we were using, and reset the counters, and then come back 15 minutes later or a day later and look at the counters again, one by one, just to find a problem. You had to go hunt and peck for it. Whereas with the OpIntel, it's right there in your face. I mean, you hit one button, you bring up an OLT, and it shows you everybody on there, and then you have the ability to sort that and see those things right away. I can see all the customers that are having downstream bit pairs or upstream bit pairs, or the light levels. Maybe there was a bad splice during an install, or a bad splice during a mainline piece of work that has caused additional issues down the stream. Yeah, it's just it's one click, and I'm there. I've got that information. I don't have to go looking for it. We have it up on a board. We walk by it every day. We can see it. Hey, there's an issue happening right here, right now.
Excellent. Yeah, and to that point, I think, the source of some of those issues can be hard to find at times. I know with another member who's using the service, some of the issues were, related to a particular modem type, right? An error within the modem itself, and being able to just have that level of information allowed them to pinpoint the problem type modems and swap them out proactively, wherever they could. So thanks for sharing that perspective. Um, I think so far we've focused a lot on the platform itself, but you know, like we've talked about a couple of times, one of the major aspects of OpIntel that you've taken advantage of is the network monitoring and management portion. So, can you talk a little bit about how Allband and you and your team or other teams are using the monitoring and management capabilities that are attached to OpIntel?
Yeah, we're well, one, I mean, I don't know if this goes to this, but adapting to our staffing changes. We're a small company. There is, turnover in smaller companies, and a longer training time sometimes, especially when you have multiple tools, and trying to explain, 3 or 4 different tool sets, to somebody new, and having to do that over and over, it's really a time sink. Whereas, the OpIntel tool consolidates a lot of that. We still have to rely on some of those, the other tools, but this at least gets that person up and running a lot quicker. The ability to see our core network, whereas before we really couldn't do that. There was a tool, but it was convoluted, and you wouldn't want to explain it to any new hires. Whereas with this tool, it's a lot easier to show it, and visually, training a tool is much easier. The historical charts, the visibility to increasing errors, they're just all a lot easier to look at every day, and to look at with new employees. And then moving forward, I mean, some of the things you mentioned in one of the previous slides is, being able to map out our network and being able to see even weather overlays is going to be huge. I mean, we don't have that at the moment because we're still working through some data cleanup and organization. But when we get to that point, we could have different weather, in like other cities, in larger cities, we could have different weather in the north than we have going on in the south. It could be, I have driven from sun to blizzard to rain all in one day, and being able to see that come through our network and how it affects our network. Even though we're mostly underground, we do still have units on the sides of the houses. So they do get affected by weather, occasionally. So it's just those are the types of things that, we look forward to. And with the team there working on this and working with us on this, and their eagerness to bring in new ideas. If I have something new, I shoot an email, and I get a response, hey, that's a great idea, let's try and do it. And there are sometimes I see a response, same day, next day, of, hey, we implemented that, go take a look at it and see what it is, and you see how you like it. And to be able to make changes like that, quickly, while this is, in development and being developed, and continues to grow, and then, with other partners, we all kind of work together, through the NRTC and the OpIntel team to keep improving this tool more and more. It's impressive.
Well, we appreciate you saying that, and again, we know everybody's operations a little bit different. So, we like the ability to customize the way that the information is being displayed or presented to give you the greatest utility, right, in what that information is. So, you know, speaking of the kind of the engineering side of things, I know here over the last, I don't know, few weeks, I believe the network engineers were in helping make some core network changes. Can you talk a little bit about how some of the engineering staff at NRTC has assisted with those, let's say, layer 3 or core network changes for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been, it's an ever improving process. And I say that because, we're going through staffing changes here, and we're, like I said, we do have churn in even in our small organization. So being able to work directly with the engineers there and the making changes to how our on-call works and how we get alerts and how we get notifications. We haven't even, just to let everyone know, we haven't even turned most of the alerting on yet because we're just not there yet. We're not ready for it. But we know that, moving forward, we're bringing in the, our more engineering staff here, that we're going to be able to get a lot more proactive after hours, alerting to things that we've probably never even seen happening before. Outages that, that used to happen that we may not even know because we rely on the customers for a lot of our outage information. It's the customers calling in to let us know. Whereas now, as we're moving forward, we start to see things. Just a few weeks ago, there was a large push from Apple. Did an update, and I was able to jump on OpIntel because even at home I was seeing a slowdown in services, and I was able to jump into OpIntel and see that this huge amount of Apple traffic was slamming the network. And it's things like that we never would have noticed stuff like that before. And so working with the engineers there and constantly evolving what we can see and how we get alerted to it. Those are the things that are making a big difference in us on a daily operation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for sharing that story. That's so often it feels like other vendors like Apple and others. Gaming systems is another one where an update comes out and just completely hits you out of left field, right? So having more context for what that surge in traffic is or what that increase in calls are being driven by definitely helps. Or we hear that it helps a lot of our members. Again, with this being a relatively new product and you and your team being more on the front end of it, what do you see as the potential for this tool in the future as it relates to your operation or your team and how you want to use it, plan to use it, things like that?
Well, with our new engineers coming on and we have new management and we have new techs and everybody, kind of sees the network from a different perspective. The way I look at a network and the way our engineer looks at one and the way our general manager looks at one, we're all looking at different things. The GM might be looking at what's our growth potential, what's our focus for revenue increase. How can we market our network differently? So being able to see, like the streaming traffic. Oh, we have a lot of gamers. Who would expect that in a rural area like ours, the amount of gaming that goes on is, comparable to a city. There's a lot of gaming that goes on. Or, is there a lot of streaming traffic? Is there a lot of, what do I want to call, YouTube traffic for people that are,
Hmm.
they're doing their video blogs and whatnot. Being able to watch stuff like that helps us identify target markets that we can go after, whereas we never would have been able to see things like that before. Um, the the engineers, they look at more of the errors that are going on and what's happening across the network at a much higher level. They want to see initially a 50,000 foot view and be able to work down through the network to find errors and issues that might be happening or getting ready to happen proactively. Whereas myself, I need to see the customers. I need to see which customers having a problem, who's being affected right now, right today, that I need to get my techs out into the field and and get somebody back online or improve their service so that they can uh, they can go tell everybody how awesome we are. So, the
Absolutely.
OpIntel tool, I mean, it covers multiple bases for us. It's across our entire network and our organization. And it's like I said, it's been a night and day difference from a year ago, year and a half ago to today. And even then again, still stepping forward, we have such a good partnership with the NRTC and improving this tool and coming up with new ideas. And everybody that comes in, hey, what about this? Can we look at this? Can we look at these types of errors? Could we see it in a different view? That's the big one too, is you may have a lot of data, and that's super awesome to have a lot of data, but if you can't see it properly, you may not know what to do with it. It's just, and when
Hmm.
you start to put piece A with piece B, and piece C together, things come to light and you start to see, wow, this piece of equipment seems to be having this type of issue. Maybe we need to look at that. Maybe we need to get with a vendor on that and solve a problem. Or this area of town, has more errors than any other area of town, so let's get some techs out there and focus on the plant and maybe there's an improvement that we need or a change. So uh, it's an evolving process, and it's one that we appreciate, the NRTC and the OpIntel team. It's making our lives so much easier, and we are looking forward to the next steps where we actually start using it more and more for the target marketing and growth opportunities that it's going to give to us.
That's awesome. Yeah, and again, we when we started OpIntel a few years back, we like to tell the story of the swear jar. Anytime anybody said that it was a network monitoring tool only, you had to put $1 in the jar, right?
Right.
We do have a lot of information clearly that's focused on the health and the state of the network, but so much of that information can be transferred to different levels of the organization, as you've just described. Executive level, sales and marketing, and so we are always, I think, very eager to help develop functionality that not only assists folks who are dealing with customers or working on the network, but also that help identify opportunities for increased revenue or increased customer satisfaction. So we
Yep.
appreciate that perspective, absolutely. I'm going to take a pause here for a second. I know we're kind of getting on in the webinar for today. And so I just wanted to remind everyone that if you have questions for Matt or I related to OpIntel with network monitoring and management, please go ahead and use the questions section in your sidebar there. We'd be happy to answer any of the questions that you might have. Um, while folks in the audience are contemplating their questions, Matt, maybe I'll set up kind of um, uh, a final question for you. As it relates to OpIntel and the platform as a whole, um, what uh, what do you what what do you think is the next part of your business that isn't the traditional, let's say, network operations that would take advantage of this? I kind of heard you allude to it earlier, but maybe sales and marketing, and what do you think that could look like?
Absolutely. I mean, the target marketing being able to identify, the what's the next source of revenue, right? For a
Hmm.
small company like ours, especially we're non-for-profit and we rely heavily on funding, grants and whatnot for expanding our service. We do have to take some ownership and go out and find money ourselves, obviously, and help improve revenue. Um, and so we will be able to use the OpIntel tool to identify some creative, and unique opportunities of customer types that we can, cater to. Do we
Hmm.
offer different speeds? Do we offer different packages? What about is there a way to use it? Excuse me. Is there a way to use it for the campers? Is there a way to use it for the hunters? Is there a way to use it for the gamers and the education, you know, um, emergency services, DNR, law enforcement, all of those different sources of revenue, that are out there for organizations that they could tap into. Being able to see who's who is using and how they're using our network, at
Hmm.
a high level, those are the things that are going to help us identify the next revenue stream. How are we going to
Hmm.
improve the business? What upgrades should we be looking at? What upgrades do we not need to look at? We may have spent or been thinking about spending, you know, 20, $30,000 on a piece of gear that we go into OpIntel and see, well, maybe wireless really isn't the best option for this area because look at
Hmm.
this other data. It's just really not, maybe it's not doing it. Maybe we should take that money and focus it someplace else. And that's
Hmm.
what we're looking forward to for this tool, moving forward into the upcoming years is how can we utilize the information that is here to identify more revenue streams and improve overall service just for all the customers.
Hmm. Well, I'll tell you what, just speaking on behalf of the team, we're definitely excited to dive into those use cases with you, to help,
Mhm.
develop them and really help promote the benefits of this environment to other folks in your organization. So,
And we
um,
appreciate and we appreciate you, Ben, and the team there because like I had mentioned before, I just want to tap it just real quick. You guys have been great with your responsive, nature and your willingness to adapt the tool and make the changes. And you know, we don't expect, in the future, everything is not hey, I'm going to shoot you an email and you're going to make a change on the fly. We don't, we get that, but right now, during our development and your development, it's just been there's been some really good synergy and, bringing in ideas from even your different partners. Um, it's been a great experience so far with this tool. We really appreciate it.
awesome. Well, thanks for saying that. And I know we're really lucky to have such a awesome team of people, really creative individuals, really talented individuals who are, really the ones driving what you're seeing on the screen. So that's great to hear. I know that will make them feel real good. Um, we're starting to see a couple questions come in from the audience. I would say anyone who is interested in submitting anything, please do that. But the first question that I'm going to talk a little bit about is just, what is the status of this? So maybe there was some confusion around whether this is in a pilot still or whether it's generally available. And the answer is this is generally available. We're out of the pilot phase. So anyone who's interested in the addition of the network monitoring and management components to OpIntel, that is available today. And as far as the structure of the pricing, that's another question that's coming through. The structure essentially of how it's priced is a base fee with a per subscriber charge on top of that really uh, dials down into our ability to match subscribers to the net flow traffic that's coming across the network. And a lot of the views that we've shown you here in the screenshots today are really driven by that net flow traffic. And so we believe that the bulk of the value to you comes from that. And so we want to be able to match our ability to provide value down to, how it's structured from a pricing perspective. If you have questions about how it's priced or what the pricing would be for your particular operation, please take advantage of our sales team, our directors, our business development directors, ARMs. Any of your primary touch points with NRTC can help get you in the right place there to get you a pricing option and then a demo. If you want to be able to see this functionality live, we do have a live demo available. So one of our team members can run you through that. One other question coming in: what does the onboarding process look like for OpIntel, and then how does that change with the addition of monitoring and management? So, with OpIntel specifically, let's start there. As you could probably tell from a number of the aspects of the discussion today, the data that we want to be able to collect can be complex, and it comes from a number of different sources. And the ability to access that information is really different for everyone, right? So we work with every member individually on how we can get access to that information in the quickest or most efficient way possible. Every operation works a little bit different, so we just work with you and your pace. Once we have obtained the information for OpIntel and we're able to start building the dashboards and the alerts that we've talked about here, then we're in a position where we can start to bring our network management and monitoring teams into OpIntel. So like I said before, they have access to the same dashboard views that you do. The alerts that we are generating for our own internal NOC as it relates to the monitoring and management are the same types of alerts that can be delivered to you and your team. Or maybe if you'd prefer to have them all routed to us, we can do that too. So there's a lot of customization in how the alerting takes place. But once we have the ability to start providing you with actionable alerts, then we complete the connection between our NOC, and upon your approval, we go ahead and flip the switch and can start reacting to those alarms on your behalf. Ultimately, we know that everybody's management or support structure is different, kind of like we saw earlier in our polls. And so like with the platform, every integration that we do on the monitoring and management side is customized to the way that you would want to have those calls escalated or routed in the event of a critical issue. With the management piece of that, our folks will proactively work to resolve those issues on your behalf, again, given a playbook that you define with us for what you would want us to take care of and what you would rather have escalated to your team. But ultimately, we follow those playbooks based on the severity of the alert, the timing of the alert, et cetera, to be able to support you in the best, most efficient way possible. So, clearly, if there's further question on that, I'm happy to go into more depth there in more of a, let's call it a demo call with a salesperson. So we're kind of getting to the end of the hour here. I think we'd talked about 45 minutes. We've gone over 10 minutes over. So I want to be respectful of everyone's time. If you do have questions outside of what's been submitted so far, feel free to send those through in the chat. I'll address those as we're closing here today, or via email if you'd prefer. But I wanted to just go ahead and say thank you again, Matt, for taking the time to join us today and sharing your perspective. Like we've said a number of times, it's been a real pleasure for us and our team to work with you and really dive into your use cases and provide functionality that sounds like is helping your operation. So thank you again for sharing your perspective.
You're welcome. I appreciate being here.
Fantastic. Like I said before, we have done one more of these. If you are interested in a copy of that or viewing that particular webinar, a link to that will be available in the PDF that we'll provide at the end here. If you have any specific requests, like a copy of the deck or anything like that, you can email us and we can provide that for you. Managed services at nrtc.coop. So again, thank you to Matt. Thank you for attending, all of you in the audience. Thank you to Dan and JB from our marketing team for facilitating, promoting, and helping make this session a success. And thank you to the Genesis team for all the hard work that they're doing to really help make this product as successful as it has been. So with no further questions, we'll, I guess, bid you farewell. We appreciate you dedicating an hour of your day to learning more about this. If you have any more questions, please do feel comfortable to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to talk with you more about it. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week. Thank you.